Hello, hello. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Feel free to put in the chat where are you watching from, and welcome to the last session of today. So I'm Ali Azzeddin from Fourth Generation for Education, and we've been since 9 a.m. Live on Zoom and on Facebook with different speakers, different languages, talking about agency. So let me welcome Lou. And Lou, we are wrapping up the day with you. I have people watching from Lebanon, Egypt, Russia, Jordan, India, and many other places. They are introducing who they are in that chat. And let me remind everyone, we will have plenty of opportunity to use that chat today. It's a very interactive session. Click on all panelists and attendees so we are able to read all your reflection. Use the Q&A to send your question. I'm also keeping an eye on our Facebook page for the people who are interacting via Facebook. So we have more than 100 webinar on our YouTube channel. This whole idea started last year with the lockdown. I committed to being live once per month in French, in English, in Arabic, and here we are. This is our last day for this academic year. I'm taking July as a break, and we will be back in August with a full day on welcome back to school. So Lou, it's time to take us and to guide us through your session. I saw a pirate this morning when you promoted the session on social media. So what do we have this session? Let's discover
All right.
together.
All right. So today we're going to definitely, I put out a little teaser out there about how to become a pirate. And we're going to talk about that in tying with how do we become an agentic educator. And as we're about to set sail, see the metaphor here, as we're about to set sail into our summer holiday and then getting rejuvenated and then starting our next school year. How can we try to get empowered with agentic learning again? Because this year has been rough, right? We've had a lot of change, a lot of situations, and we've had to navigate a lot of uncertain waters. But now, as we're heading towards a little bit of normalcy next year, how can we take some of that agency back and infuse it so that our learners become agentic? So here's just a quick snippet about me. I am a PYP coordinator in Houston, Texas. I've taught in Dubai. I've taught in Cologne, Germany. I've lived all around the world. And all those beautiful experiences in the PYP. I work for, I was in the IB system as a primary years teacher, and now as a coordinator or curriculum leader in the school. I've also during the pandemic, started a podcast called Confessions of a PYP Teacher, just giving tips and tricks to educators on how to navigate these uncertain times. All right, so today our mission is for us to think like a pirate. Arg, I know you've all secretly, how about you, Ali? Have you secretly always wanted to take on the role of a pirate?
Maybe not take the role of the pirate, but maybe join them on a trip in those beautiful seas around the planet.
Exactly. Well, yes, just to take a little box of space, right? And let
Yeah.
them do their thing, but just be a voyager. And that to me is what I think of a pirate. And you know, the classic understanding or where we get our looks of piracy is varied for everyone. But today, as we go into the session, I want you to get the most out of it as you can. Take care of your needs. Ironically, have your phone, have your phone handy. All right. And also, a lot of ideas are going to be coming your way, and have an open mind so that you too can think like a pirate. All right, here we go, Ali. You ready?
I'm ready.
All
I
right.
hope we have some accessories and we can open the cameras of everyone so we can also see them if they are ready to travel with us.
I hope so. I hope so. All right. So right now in the chat, I would like you to write down what's one word you would use to describe a pirate. So what's your one word, Ali?
I would go for risk takers.
Mm-hmm.
So
Risk takers.
pirates take the risks. They are. So I'm getting explorer several times. I'm getting courageous as well. So they are thinkers. They discover. They are curious. They are adventurous. They find solution to problem. And it seems you have a group of people who like to see the full half of the cup, Lou. A lot of positive comments. So now here is the first, let's say with a negative connotation, they are thieves.
Yes.
They are resilient. They are great. They are adventurous again. So
So a lot of ways that we could describe a pirate,
and a lot of
and a
perspectives.
lot of perspectives. That's so right. And it's because it's based on our exposure to who they are, right? And the
Right.
classic way would be like this, the Pirates of Caribbean, you
Yes.
know, all right? With Captain Jack Sparrow, you know, and that they're good looking, but they're justified in what they do. But then as we go into the history of piracy, you see a lot of this where uh, actually the mates in the boat are actually usurping the captain and leaving the captain on the land. Those are not the things that we're focusing on, friends. We are not taking a coup of our school. But what we're trying to do is think like a pirate in regards to this man. His name is Sir Francis Drake, who came from England, and he was actually called My Little Pirate by Queen Elizabeth I. And what he started off to do, he's the first person ever to go around the world in one single journey and do it successfully. He started off with 5 ships, but he had questions he wanted to answer. And he found a way to navigate during his cultural time. It was a real big no-no at that time. You had certain roles as a man, right? There were certain societal roles, and he bucked all of them so that he could demonstrate some agency in his life. So that's the piece that I want to focus on is now, how is this tied to agency? When you think about pirates, as we've been looking at as risk takers, as courageous adventurers, it's because they had a voice in the process. They had a voice in the journey. They also were able to lead and have choices. They were able to make their own choices in that process, and they were able to take ownership, good, bad, or indifferent. So, Ali,
Yes.
what's one way this week you think you've demonstrated some agency like a pirate?
Ooh, so maybe preparing for this event and again giving a lot of freedom to the speakers
Mm-hmm.
to share their ideas, to take their ideas into different direction, and then I also had an experience with my little daughter. I talk a lot about her. She's 5 years old. And then we bought a new picture book. And then the picture book is tell your own story. And then we started creating our own stories using different pattern to create the story. And then here I was listening to her, and I let her guide the mini session of storytelling. And yeah, those are the two ideas that came to my mind.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Now, my friends that are joining us, put into the chat, how are you like a pirate? What's something you did possibly this week or this past month that showed some agency? I'm curious to see what they put.
So we are going to give them few minutes, and
Yes.
while they are writing what they have done like a pirate during this period of time, I would say that while also I was preparing for my session this afternoon, the Arabic session, Lou, I felt that I'm not going to do it by myself. I need to bring another voice, and I invited a friend. She's a psychologist, and then she joined me in the webinar, and then we shared together a different perspective on agency. And so I was trying
Mm,
to model to the teacher that by bringing guest speakers and by bringing the expertise of the community to your classroom, you're also modeling that we learn from each other. So the chat started, and then I'm getting plenty of ideas. So everything counts, Hiba. So yes, tell us about anything that you have done. It seems Hiba is a leader. So Jay, hello Jay. He organized the first ever sports day at the school.
Ooh.
Alia on Facebook, she's saying, I've been a risk taker. We would like to know more, Alia, why you're saying that. Jyoti, our school academic year is coming to an end. We gave the opportunity to nursery kids to choose how they want to celebrate the last week, because usually we prepare everything for them, no? Yamini, she's mentioning that we explored and found new resources for the next school year. And I'm getting more. Dana, I allowed my student to choose how they want to express themselves through writing, drawing, or maybe singing. And then I'm getting, again, more of the KG people. I was preparing for my KG1 lesson and told my son to give me idea to challenge the young kids. This is amazing.
I love it.
Yeah. And then Mona, she's preparing with her student for the last week of the academic year. And then Jay is also talking about their first literacy week. Raja, hello Raja on Facebook. They are preparing the KG graduation with a lot of input from parents.
Love it. All
Yeah.
of these wonderful ways that you guys are demonstrating agency. I love that you're involving the students and the parents, right? Because that's so important in that relationship. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at ways that agency matters. Now, if you know anything about pirates, they're pretty stinky, right? And they love
I can even smell it, Lou. So
yes. And this is a strategy that I came to me through research while I was demonstrating agency, trying to find ways to interact. It's called Stinky Fish. And I hope you use it in your classrooms, because Stinky Fish are those things that we put into a corner or into a drawer, and we try to pretend it doesn't exist. Kind of, you know, we all have our own stinky fish, and it gets too smelly over time that it gets so bad that we have to take it out and deal with it, because it impacts our teaching or impacts our culture of our campus. So in regards to stinky fish, my friends, the stinky fish in the room today we're going to talk about is your level of agency. So when you're thinking about creating your units or creating the learning in your classrooms, my question, friends, is number one, is the unit handed to me? So basically you have no say in anything, all right? Or do others develop it and seek my input, right? They're seeking my feedback. That's number two. Or number three, I'm involved in parts of the unit design. Or number four, I'm very involved in developing all parts of the unit plan. So this is where we're going to get real, and you're going to start using your phone, okay? So we are going to do another tool called Slido. Oops. All right. So with Slido, what it works is that you can either scan this QR code with your phone on the upper hand corner, or go to slido.com and type in this code 451581 and choose the one that best fits you.
So I'm putting for them in the chat the link and the code. I'm going to scan also the code on my phone. And then the people on Facebook, you can also join us. You can see join at slido.com and then 451581. And as I told you, we have a lot of interaction during this session. And as you can see, low. Many people are answering, and we're getting a lot of 3 and 4, right?
Which is a very good thing, right?
Yeah.
That's the desired. But there are times depending on our role in the campus as well, right? If we're not a homeroom teacher, we might be a specialist or supporting teacher that might impact our level of input. But it's looking like majority get to create it with their team, which is what we want.
And which is the best practices.
Which is the best practice, that's right.
Okay, I'm looking at Facebook and checking if people they've put maybe 1, 2, 3, or 4 because, or maybe they joined also the interaction on Slido. So good.
This is brilliant. Okay, so it looks like right now, as it stands, about 67% get to create it with their team. About 27% get to work on some parts of the unit, and about 7% they just provide feedback.
I'm happy that we don't have people saying, I just get it and then I do it.
Yes. And, you know, the reason why I put this in here is because I want us to own where we are but that regardless of our situation, there are ways that you can still demonstrate agency like a pirate. Okay. So we're going to look at some of those as we go along. Okay. So
I love that photo here.
Makes you hungry for some breakfast. But what I love about this is that it reminds me that agency can happen in any environment. It's about our mind frame, right? One thing, I began my IB journey when I was living in Cologne, Germany. And I was very fortunate to work in a school there that fostered my development. And then I moved to Dubai and to have a different experience. And I had a certain way that the PYP looked in my eyes. And then I came back to America into a US public school. So going from private international to public school. And you can imagine my shock, Ali, yes?
I know.
It's a very different system approach. But the one thing that I learned through being in a public school is that, and some of us here might be in a public or state school situation. It's about your mindset. I started to get really creative of, ooh, how am I going to demonstrate agency regardless? And I think I'm a better teacher because of it. And so I'm grateful for that. I've worked in all these environments. And so I want you too to walk away today with some practical strategies that you can apply regardless of your situation. How about you, Ali? What's your background?
So I started in Lebanon as a French teacher, French PYP teacher, and we were all Lebanese students. And then I moved to Dubai, and in Dubai I worked with Emirati student but international teacher. And then my recent experience as a full-time coordinator, it was in Doha with 60 different nationalities. And so I feel that moving from the local environment in Lebanon to a half international environment in Dubai to a fully international school in Qatar helped me a lot in developing again my leadership, my approach, how I dealt with the teacher, the listening, the speaking, when do I interfere, and let me say I was very lucky that I worked in the 3 schools in bilingual, multilingual environment, and this also helped me a lot to provide real examples about how we work together in a bilingual context or in a multilingual context, and how each department or each language can also bring a different perspective to our unit or to our lesson or even to our school culture.
Absolutely. That first PYP school that I worked in was bilingual, German and English. And so learning how to navigate with a different culture, it really does open your mind. So now, my friend, we're going to go on to thinking about what is the way that we engage our kids. How, what, we have the choice on what that engagement looks like, right? Do we go through compliance? Are children just doing because they want to get a grade, right? And that's what we don't want. We want children to feel committed, that they're, you know, have that commitment towards developing some sort of relationship with you and learning for a purpose and feeling like they are a partner with the teacher, because then that goes to connection, right? Where children are then able to engage with ideas, with their own experiences, their past. They're feeling a little bit more in control, and then they create for themselves. That's when the children are so empowered that they go home and do a project that you haven't assigned. And that's what we want. So regardless of our situation of, you know, if we're part of the unit process, we have control of how we engage our learners. And we can't always, my friends, we're not always going to be in creation mode. Sometimes it's going to be commitment. Sometimes it's going to be connection. It's going to ebb and flow. But our ultimate goal is that we want students to create for their own passion. Can you think of a time, Ali, that a child was so excited about what you were sharing in the class that they went home and took some action on their own?
I think I have one strategy that I share a lot in my workshops and even with my student or when I visit schools to do reading and writing workshops, because as you know, Lou, I'm a published author and I write in French, English, and Arabic. And so I teach them how to create a small book. And it's a kind of origami, like you fold the paper and then you have finally a book after like maybe 4 or 5 folds. And what happens is the following day, I see everyone coming back to the class or to the school, and they created their own stories and they want to share their own stories. And I feel this is a very powerful moment, because instead of teaching them phonics or separate things that they don't find in the real life, by showing them how to create a book, then they can put anything inside it, even if they decide just to put illustrations. And I'm telling them in this kind of learning experience that you can create even if you're not very strong in writing or in reading, and you can put your ideas on a piece of paper, and then people, they might buy this book. And usually those wordless books, they are the most expensive, Lou, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. What a great way to get kids to create. And that's what we want. You know, we, even if we have a lot of pressure from our community or outside sources to teach, you know, certain level. I work in a situation where it's, you must teach these standards because there's a test at the end of the year. So how do we navigate that so there's still more agency? So we're going to get to an interactivity part, my friend, where, so get ready. These are different ways that a child can show agency. You can get them to make some decisions about their learning, not about every piece, but some pieces where, and then how are they going to show that learning? How are they going to show it to the school community and that the processes? How are they going to explore those wonderings, those questions they have, right? How are you going to allow them to post these questions in the classroom and then explore them throughout what you're doing in your units? Are they becoming their authentic self, being able to feel free, like you were saying, Ali, with that foldable book, you know, showing who are you really, not who I want you to be as a student, but who are you really? And how can you find ways that you can show that authentic self? And a big part of agency is knowing and owning, hey, this is where I am. These are my wonderful strengths, but these are also my weaknesses, right? And being able to assess that progress. So my friends, let's get ready for another Slido. All right, this next piece is going to be a little different. What I want you to do, my friends, is these are all different ways that you can, on the previous slide, we talked about different ways that you can demonstrate agency with your students. I want you to now rank them. Ooh, then this is very open to interpretation. There's no one right answer. I want you to, when you open up the Slido, you're going to have a chance to literally slide the answer choices to make a choice of which one do you think is the most important in developing agency for you. I can't wait to see these answer choices, Ali.
Yes, so we are in the same slido.com with the same code 451581, and you need to rank these to show agency from the most important to the less. What? You're right?
Yes. So
Yes.
like you have to, yes. So number one would be the top. What do you think is the most important? And number, yes.
It's not an easy one. I'm
It is
solving it
not.
with the attendees.
It is not.
Oof.
And there's no one right answer.
Of
It's about
course,
what's,
yeah.
yeah, it's all about you.
Oh, wow, Lou, this is not an easy exercise.
I know we're trying to get people to think at the end of the day.
Yes, but I submitted my answer, so let's see if people. Okay, I can see that. Uh,
I'm
my
loving
number
this.
one, my number one is the number one of the majority as well.
Awesome.
And let me check our Facebook friend. So we have some interaction, but
Brilliant.
they're not solving these questions. They just commented on the previous slides. So I'm keeping an eye on them.
Okay. Well, I find it fascinating that the number one is exploring my wonderings. That's so
You were
wonderful.
not expecting this one?
Well, everyone is so different in how
True.
they look at agency, right?
Yeah, yeah.
This is my number one.
Okay.
Ironic. Yes, because I think that drives everything else,
And again,
right?
I've put the assessment in number 6, and I can see also the majority, they decided to put it in number 6 based on all this voting. So interesting. It seems we speak the same language in this group.
Mm. But the main purpose of this engagement is that where you place the emphasis, that needs to be your goal. And do we see that happening in your room? Our children, so if number one is what speaks to your heart, exploring wonderings, how are you exploring your own wonderings in your own life? You know, and like this summer, I'm seeing so many posts on social media. These are books I'm reading, and I'm like, I didn't know these books existed. So now that's my wondering, like, wait a minute, I'm interested in that. I didn't know there was a book on that. And so you know, that's how I'm exploring my wonderings this summer. How are we getting our kiddos to do that too? So what's one way you're going to explore your wondering this summer, you think, Ali?
I ordered a long list of books, and so I'm reading. I started reading, and I decided that my goal for the next year. So I'm celebrating my birthday this month, Lou, and
Me
then
too.
yeah, I'm planning to publish a book for educators in Arabic. So let's
Oh,
see
that's
if
so
I will be
wonderful.
able if I will be able to make it happen in 1 year.
That's beautiful. That is so wonderful, friend. And
Yeah,
it's so needed, right?
right.
All of our voices. But the one thing too is that whatever one you put as number one, make that be your agency goal for next year. That's really what this process is about. And
True.
that's what speaks to your heart, right? How are
So
you gonna make
let's
that
check.
happen?
We're getting happy birthdays wishes. When are you born, Lou? Which day?
My birthday is June 14th.
Okay, very soon. So I'm on
Yes.
the 26th.
Okay. And so
You see,
we have so many
we're
commonalities, my
getting
friend.
to know each other, and then this is also part of agency, to know your student, to know their background. I can see many people, they are also born in June. We have a 17 June, 30 June, so we can do a big celebration.
Yay. Absolutely. All right, so friends, so as we're trying to explore our wonderings, because that seems to be, but don't be limited to that. We're going to think about ways, practical ways now that
Back to
we can,
pirates.
back to pirates. All right, some practical ways that you can demonstrate some agency next year, okay? So just like the captain of a pirate ship, he cannot man all of this equipment. This is a lot. He needs that first mate to help guide the process and also a crew. So how are we? So this is a question for you. Are you using your crew, which are your students, to help you co-create your learning space? Anyone doing that? And how are you doing that? That'd be really interesting if you could pop that quickly into the chat, because I'm always looking for new ways of sharing that experience with learners.
I always say to the teacher, please, during the induction week, stop working in your classroom. Think about your curriculum, maybe about the strategies that you are going to use. Create time for collaboration, and then do the first week design the class with your students.
Absolutely.
So you are decorating it and choosing a theme and then cutting 300 stars to create the space. And maybe all your students are not interested in space and they are really interested in the sea and the shell and the pirates. So Jyoti is telling us that yes, my crew always does that for setting the routine to setting and designing the space.
Love it. Love it. And yes, I agree with you, Ali. Towards the end of my time being a teacher, I would wait. And I would have some paper on the wall so that my principal didn't panic, that it wasn't, in a little border, but that was it, right? A little border that was neutral, so it could go with any theme, so that, but there wasn't any posters or anything. And I would say,
and Lou, like people are afraid that maybe we have this again, the welcome evening during the first week, and then what the parents are going to say, our bulletin board are empty. I used to have plenty of learning experiences completed in 5 to 10 minutes, where, for example, we do some handprint, and then the student, they would write their strengths or their interest or who they are, and it's done very quickly. It's very creative. It's very unique. And it's not a worksheet where I can see 25 copies of the same turtle colored in green.
Absolutely. And so, the learning space, I'm absolutely addicted, even though it's early years, I'm addicted to the Reggio Emilia approach, because I love how there is an emphasis of it being student-centered, and also
It's very welcoming, Lou. It's
it's
very
very
welcoming.
welcoming. But the one thing I also love is that they use natural materials, so that you bring, so then that sets the stage that learning is not just in the classroom, but outside as well. Isn't that fabulous? So think about how you're going to stretch possibly the outside space to also become a learning center, a place for learning, right? And so, my friends, thinking about agency, how are you promoting learning agency through the design of your learning space, right? So that
So
now
Jay,
takes it to another level.
Jay is commenting that this whole freedom is not happening a lot because parents, they have different expectation. So we're trying hard for next year, and this is the whole idea of creating a culture and sharing this culture with your community, your parents, your student, your new teachers. I'm looking also at the previous comments. Shireen, she said, I give them the chance to plan for their environment and then to design the classroom and the space together. I love Reggio Classroom. This is what I'm telling the teacher to get inspired from. It's been a pleasure to work as a team and then negotiate and solve the problem together. And then we're allowing the student to explore more materials. These are some of the ideas I'm getting in the chat.
And it's really interesting as
Yeah.
you try to integrate some of the in the indoor and outdoor learning spaces to be driven by learning, they start to make connections. Like one participant in a recent workshop told me this first picture, they see the water cycle. And I was like, what? but now every time I see this photo, I see the water cycle because it's a circular type of, and children make those connections by a space that's designed with agency in mind. They make those connections. So
talking about, again, the learning space, I'm going back now, like maybe 16 years ago or 15 years ago, when I used to be a grade 4 teacher, and then Safa, we used to work together. She's here watching the webinar. So I entered the class, Lou, at the beginning of the year, and this is one of those biggest classroom because it's at the corner.
Okay.
And so I found that I have the shelves of the student on 2 different walls. So I called the guy, the technical guy, and I told him, please remove this shelf from this side to the other side. And so I created a space only for shelves and the boxes of the student. And then I designed some nice cushions and I put them on the floor. I created a library space. And then the following day, I had my principal coming to the class, and she was like, Ali, what happened to this classroom? Like, it's completely different than the other 4 classes in the corner. I said, you told us this space should be like your home and you should feel comfy in it. And so this is what I have done. And Safa is saying yes in the chat. And I think from this moment, all the teachers started putting their own touch and their own vibe in the classroom. And we were not anymore in those like rows and everyone doing the same thing at the same time.
And that's so important, right? Because the space is the third teacher, right? You have your children who are the second, but then the learning environment that can actually inhibit agency from happening. If, you know, if children are sitting in rows, even if they have their desks pushed together, where's the room for exploration? How is materials used? Do you have centers around the room where they can go explore? And I'm even talking about 4th and 5th graders, especially where they can tinker with ideas and have almost like not necessarily maker space, but that same kind of philosophy, right? I've been forever a champion of all of that. So now let's go on to another way that you can demonstrate agency like a pirate.
And we still have approximately 20 minutes, Lou.
And we are good to go. So this is a major way is, I love this image because a lesson can go into 2 directions. It can go into a very factual, facts-based, or it can go and meander in a different pathway. So depending on the questions we ask, that will determine the outcome of to the level that our students go. So one thing that I absolutely love, Ali knows this as well, is that the work of Dr. Lynn Erickson, and she has this kind of leveled questioning. She says that there's factual, conceptual, and debatable questions. And I'm going to briefly go over this and we're going to practice it out. So factual question would be like, what is force in motion? You know, in America, we focus a lot about Spain and their influence into the United States through their missions. And I was thinking about one of my favorite explorers is Ibn Battuta. I absolutely love him. And I learned a lot about him when I was living in Dubai. And so how do we take these questions of what is, where did, who was, and how do we take it now to a conceptual place? So if you look at in regards to how does force and motion apply to my real life? Now that's a lot more open. Chance for children to, you know, explore in a variety of ways. Where might you see Spanish influence around the world? Now it's like, wow, that can be anywhere. What's a conceptual, why are conceptual questions so powerful for you, Ali?
Sorry,
What
Lou,
does the
can you ask back the question again? Because I
sure?
was answering Nelly in the chat. She's talking about the early years, and
Uh-huh.
so okay. So Nelly is based in Kenya, and then
Okay.
parents are very scared this time because of COVID, and we are
Mhm.
reflecting on the learning environment. So sorry, I was not listening to
No
you.
problem. No problem. In
Yeah.
regards to learning environment, since that question came up with
Mm,
physical distancing, we're
mm,
my school is still very physically distanced. You know,
mm.
we're taking protocols, but we're talking more about how, even in these physical times, um, how are you still shaping the room to make it so it's more student centered? How, is there work everywhere? You know, is there thinking everywhere rather than pre-packaged types of materials we put on the wall, like
And
you were saying, Ali?
let me say to Nelly, on our YouTube channel, we talked a lot about this in previous webinar only for early years educator. So please have a look at these videos, and we're happy to explore this again in the next academic year with different speakers, especially in our welcome back to school. For the next academic year, I already have the schedule, and we have plenty of the sessions where we will be talking about how to prepare for the next academic year, and then how to create a culture in your classroom about inquiry and about curiosity. So again, your students can continue to take the lead even if we still have plenty of restriction.
Perfect. So in regards to conceptual questions, why do you think, Ali, asking conceptual questions is so important?
Okay, so back to your question.
Yes.
In my previous session in Arabic, so it's an opportunity now to translate what we said into English. One of the participants, she asked me, Ali, do you think that our job as teacher will disappear in the future, especially with all this technology? And I said, if you are a teacher who's only transferring knowledge, yes, because Google now has all the knowledge. But if you are a teacher who's teaching the student how to ask a question and how to find the answer and how to check if the answer is valid or not valid, what kind of resources we are using, then we want you. And you are the teacher who's going to stay in the schools of the future. And so a teacher who is able to ask open-ended question, conceptual question, he is able to model it, will be able to create the environment for this student to ask all their question without fear, and then to guide
Absolutely.
them to the resources, the appropriate resources to find answers to their questions.
Absolutely. And you know, there's a big difference between who was Ibn Battuta from
Mm,
how did Ibn Battuta's journey alter perspectives.
true,
That's the
true.
huge difference, right? And
Mm,
it's like he really helped to open the ideas of Islam and to so many different people, and to people who were not a follower of the faith, what is like on the journey. And
and
that
again,
is
what
huge.
if he's still alive? So what would he change? Or
Exactly.
you see, so all these kind
Yes,
of questions that will push the thinking of the students.
correct. And so when we're coming then to this higher level, thinking about Ibn Battuta is like, why will people continue to explore the world? People have done it since the beginning of time, and why will they continue to do it long after you and I are no longer living, right?
Mm.
There's a reason, right, that that pattern exists. And so, my friends, we are going to practice this. Ooh, I know some of you are saying, what? What are we going to do? But don't worry, my friends. We have a scaffold, okay? I'm going to have a visual scaffold. I think.
Where
There
is
we go.
it?
There it is. So this is a scaffold that I did not create. A gentleman, Viderhold, made this question matrix, but I had a colleague that helped codify it. Which is that anything in that blue section is going to lead to a factual response. Okay, so who is, what is, you know, where did. Those are important. We need to have those facts, but then what do we do beyond the facts? That's going to be all your yellow. And those are going to be all your conceptual questions. And then the green are the most challenging. So like, I always ask the children, like when I was teaching fourth grade, and fifth grade, when they want to look at explorers, and in America, we focus on Christopher Columbus, right? Because he came to America, even though he thought he was in India. But but I always ask this question: how might America look different today had Christopher Columbus never come here? Think about that. We'd be speaking different languages. We would be a totally different place. And can you, in your mind, consider what would the impact of that decision be? And so that takes it to a very different level. So what we're going to do today, my friends, is we're going to practice the easier ones. We're going to practice writing a factual question, and then you're going to write a conceptual question. Okay, we're going to do another Slido. Okay, so you can join the Slido, and then I'm gonna, once everyone has had a chance to join, and I know you're putting this into the chat, right? And giving everyone a chance to access. I'm gonna go back to that that scaffold so that you can see it. All right. Once I see people, you think it's good that I can go back to the other slide, Ali?
Yes.
Okay. So here's the scaffold, my friend. Think of something you're going to teach at the beginning of the year that you know you're going to teach. Write a factual question, and then try to turn it into a conceptual question, which is the yellow. And if this is a private, because you don't worry about posting it. This is more about you trying to stretch your question techniques. So what's a question that's been on your mind lately, Ali, that you want to explore?
I'm trying to check Slido, and maybe I faced some problem. I don't know.
So is it not working?
First, I felt that I was able to see put your question conceptual, debatable, and then now it seems I need just to answer in an open box. So, but it's not a problem. I can see people they've put they started typing in their. Let me check if I can edit mine. Okay, my question recently. So I'm. This is a surprise. No, let us tell them that all this chat is going in a very spontaneous way. We didn't prepare anything. So a question that I'm thinking about recently is, how we can move in the Arab world, and you had the experience in living here, from the competition to the collaboration. We've been, I think, suffering a lot from the competition mindset. We want always to be the first one. We're doing everything for ourselves, for the me, and we forget the we. And so and so this is like my main big idea these days, and that's why I'm trying always to model that. Once we share, and once we network, and once we open our doors and our hearts and ourselves to each other as educators, we will benefit from our experiences, and we will go deeper by providing a better learning opportunities to all our students around us. So it's a very big one.
Yes. Like a question that's been on my mind is, how will education look like next year? Are some schools going to go back to the old way when we know that there's a better way? And that's something that's been on my mind. Like, how can we make sure that technology is still part of the process? You know, all these 21st century skills that our children have pivoted to, how can we not lose them as we go back more to a face-to-face dynamic, you know?
So I'm going to tell you an idea that we're planning to do in the group of schools that I'm supporting in Morocco, and we decided to embed in the timetables and during the academic year asynchronous day. So the students, they will have asynchronous day and they will be learning by themselves, and then the teachers will be at the school collaborating and planning. And you see, I told you you have a kind of a problem on this question.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I apologize.
On Slido, I have the questions, and I'm going to read
aloud
aloud for you. I'm going to read aloud for you what did we have. And this one, I would like to discuss it aloud, and we still have around 8 minutes. So let's go for this conceptual question. How do you teach a new teacher to think conceptually? I love it.
I think the way you do it is that you constantly ask them questions conceptually. You model the process. You don't always give them a factual response.
You can read a book, the books from Lynn Erickson. We just mentioned her. There is plenty of webinars. Yes, Julie. So we have plenty of webinars related to concepts, and then that's how it starts. And then I would say, I always also say that, Lou, when you start your lesson, start with questions and tell your students that today we are going to answer this question, or today or this week we are going to answer this question. So I'm someone, if you want to, prefers to tell to the teacher, don't post the lines of inquiry, post the teacher's question, and next to them put the student question, and then from here you're modeling it. So what do we have next?
Yes, and what we do is we turn the line of inquiry into a question and try to answer everything based from the lens of all we're teaching. Okay, so since we only have 8 minutes left, wow, this hour's flying. We're gonna look at just a quick strategy due to time where we might not have time to do it. But I want you to think about, how are you using a map, and the map of helping children piece together the big ideas? Because if they don't have a map of where are we going and how are all these activities I'm doing connected, that's where misconceptions come about. So the visible thinking routines really help with that. It helps them to process. And then what I often do will say, okay, we have this one routine here and what this routine, well, what's the connection between both? It's always about analyzing and building upon. So
in the previous sessions, Lou, the early years one, we had a whole discussion on how visible thinking routines helps in creating an agentic classroom. And we saw how the KG student created a unit map. And so Samah will be happy to see that the idea of the map is coming again in this session. So let's explore this visible thinking routine with you, and then we will wrap up our session together.
Perfect. So I think that a lot of people misunderstand the see, think, wonder. They think it's, oh, you see something, you write something down, and you write a question. More, and this what came from an assessment session I attended with Mary Kay Polly and Uni Santosa. They came up with this idea, is that when you're really trying to get children to see, you're trying to see what are they really observing and hearing, the message that they're trying to ascertain from the prompt you're giving. Then when they're ready to go into think, children are writing down what do they notice within a prompt, a provocation that you're showing, and what's worth recording, because they're going to have many things that they think, but what's most important to record. And that's going to help them to think conceptually. And then wondering, it's reflecting, it's a chance for them to reflect, but it's also a chance to ask them, hey, what's something I need to know next? And what's really amazing for you as a teacher is that doing a strategy like this, it informs your planning. because you're able to say, oh, I'm seeing many children have the same wonder. I need to answer that wonder and unfold it into the practice. So we're gonna quickly look at one that is very common with younger children. Ironically, I'm an older years teacher, but lately I've become obsessed with early years. And this is a concept actually that you see from kindergarten to about third grade, this concept that plants have certain needs. They need wind, they need water, they need soil, and they need sunlight in order to grow. So quickly, my friends, what would you do with this? What would you do? So just post into the chat, where are you going to take this next if you were to lead this learning?
Let's check where they will take this further. Personally, I would go for those science experiment, making some predictions, removing one of the items. And Mona is saying planting. We observe if we remove one of the elements. This is according to Marah. And hello, Marah. Marah, she's been with us since the morning, and other also educators. Jay, we do more experiment. I would ask my student questions, and then we can do some art activities.
Brilliant.
Connection to art. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to share with you something that I've done actually with my kinder students. And what was really amazing is that they learned about the needs of a plant, and then the teacher provoked them and said, okay, how do we see plant needs in this picture? Okay. And so, of course, the children, what do you notice in this picture first was the question. That's a factual question. Flowers, people, where is it, park. But then the question came, how is this tied to plant needs? Well, they have the soil, they have access to sunlight, it must rain, or they must have sprinklers. All of those conversations were happening. But this is where that's still at a factual level. So how do we then get kids to think conceptually about this content? This is where we went next. We said, well, what's happening here? Now, how can you apply what you previously know about plant needs to this? And they were perplexed until one student asked, are those flowers? Are those flowers on that thing? And I said, yes. Oh, and then the questions started coming. And the wonderings, I said, okay, think about a wondering you have. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in a question format. And these were some of the wonderings that came out beautifully. I wonder how long it takes to make a float. That's not really tied to, that's what you're going to have, right? You're going to have those outliers where they're focused so much on the float. But then it's really interesting. You started to see this happen. I wonder how many flowers it takes to make a float. Now they're connecting with a plant to the float experience. Another child said, I wonder if they use the flowers from the park to make the float. Now they're connecting the two pictures together, which is brilliant. But this is the one that really stuck out to me in this exchange. I wonder if you add water to the flowers on the float, if they will still grow. That is transfer, because the child is thinking of the original experience that plants have certain needs. And I turned it around and said, well, what do you think, class? And another child said, it can't grow because remember, they need soil. And that's one of the needs. And it's not there on the float. And that cleared up the misconception, and I didn't need to drive it. So that is where I'm going to leave this experience, my friends. Here's some few items that you can do in your classrooms. Now, the big question is, which one will you do first? Or in your classroom next year? So if you were still in the classroom, Ali, where would you start off?
I would listen more to the students and yeah, and take and let them take the lead and the decisions. So, time to start wrapping up the session.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, friends, for joining. I hope you've walked away with some ideas that spark. You don't have to use any of these ideas, but maybe it sparks something new for you. The major thing is remembering that you have agency, regardless of your situation, whether you're only a part of that planning process, you can make learning still come to life in your own way for your students. And it's been a pleasure to be here. And it's been a pleasure to be with you, Ali. So much fun.
Thanks. So let me share my screen now. I'm just going to remind the participants that all our webinars that I started doing since last April, they are now available on our YouTube channel, done by all these amazing educators in French, in Arabic, in English. All of them, I just sent them an email, told them, are you interested in coming and joining me? And I had yes from all of these wonderful educators. Now I'm taking a break in July to just recharge and prepare for the next academic year, but we still have one event, and then this event will be for the people interested to learn about concepts. So learning data transfer is happening in the next 2 weeks. It's a 5-hour event, and hopefully you can join. It's a paid event, so maybe your school can register you, maybe you still have some money and you would like to learn about concepts. So welcome to everyone. Lou, I really enjoyed the last session. I didn't, Heike, I was not prepared to all this interaction with you, but it went very well. It's 7 p.m. here in Dubai. I've been here since 9 a.m. It's time now to go for a walk, even if it's very hot outside in Dubai. But thanks for all the people who attended all the session. And Lou, hopefully we will continue this collaboration after the summer break.
Absolutely. I would love to, Ali. And one thing I just wanted to say, Ali, is that all this stuff that I've presented is free on my website at thinkchat2020.weebly.com.
Very good. So thanks, and we stay in touch, we stay connected. All the information about the workshops are shared on our Facebook page, on our social media, so you can check for generations, for education. You can also follow Lou on Twitter, where she also share all the details. So Lou, feel free to put in the chat your voila, your Twitter account, or maybe your full name, so people, they can find you on the social media. I would like to say thank you, everyone, and have a relaxing night, or have an excellent day if you are in the US like you and you just started your day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.